Okay, we are starting chapter 23. Winding this down, we only have about a month more, about 4 or 5 more lessons in Matthew. And Jesus is rebuking the Pharisees. This chapter is one that we talked about before. It's set in this particular position where it is in the book, but it's not necessarily when he did all these rebukings. He did them sometime in this last few months maybe, or even before that, but he's trying to, and all up until this time, he'd been talking to the Pharisees and the scribes, all right, trying to tell them, and they've been asking him questions. Now he turns back to his disciples, and he's telling his disciples and the people listening to him, all these things about the scribes and Pharisees. So verse 1 through 4 says, Then spake Jesus to the multitude, okay, like we said, and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees, they sit in Moses' seat. All therefore, whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not ye after their works, for they say, and do not. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. So he had told them about several things, telling the scribes and the Pharisees, pointed out some of the things all through this up until this, first 22 chapters that we hear. But now he's telling them it's okay if you listen to what the Pharisees are saying, but don't watch their lives, because they're not doing the right stuff. Don't do as they do as they say. And he's trying to warn them all ahead of this. He's already told them things that they're doing wrong. Okay, some of the things. He's trying to move them off of when they were so focused on the law and the rigidness of the law and all the extra things that had come along since that time. All their regulations and all their adjustments and all the different things that they had. That's not what they need to do. That's what he was telling them before. Now he's telling them, just watch. Because they bind heavy burdens and they're grievous to be borne. What did Jesus say when he was talking about this?
Come unto me, all you labor and not give you rest.
My yoke is easy.
And
my burden is light. He's telling them here just the opposite. The Pharisees are trying, in comparison, if we take those two, Jesus says, as we've said before, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two. If you get those right, everything else will be all right. And the Pharisees are going all out with all these 613 other laws and stuff that they have. So he said that they will say all this stuff, but then they won't move even one of their fingers to do it. They are one of the things. Here's the Pharisees. There's 7 types of Pharisees. This is from William Barclay. It says the Talmud describes 7 different types of Pharisees, and the Talmud is part of the Jewish tradition. Okay, there's a shoulder Pharisee who wore all his good deeds and righteousness on his shoulders so everyone could see.
Right.
Okay. The wait a little Pharisee who always intended to do good deeds, but could always find a reason for doing them later. Not now.
Procrastinator.
Mm-hmm. The bruised or bleeding Pharisee was so holy that he would turn his head away from any woman seen in public, and was therefore constantly bumping into things and tripping, thus injuring himself. The humped back Pharisee, who was so humble he just bent over and barely lifting his feet. so everyone could see just how humble he was. The always counting Pharisee, who was always counting up his good deeds and believed that he put God in debt to him for all the good he had done. The fearful Pharisee, who did good because he was terrified that God would strike him with judgment if he didn't. And finally, the good one, the only good one here, the God-fearing Pharisee who really loved God and did good deeds to please the God he loved. You can take each one of these and you say, me. Oh, this is getting close.
Boy, it's like toss them.
You can change Pharisee to Christian if you want to, very easily. But he tells them that they like to sit in Moses' seat. We've discussed this before. That's the seat, if you wanted to say, that's the seat of reverence. Okay? The one that was preaching, he had a seat up front, and they would call him after when they was doing the reading, and he would come up and do the reading. So he had a seat up front, and that's where the Pharisees wanted to sit, or they wanted to sit right on each side. So they are just as high up.
Noticed.
Yeah, so they'll be noticed, and everybody sees that they're,
You know, you mentioned it when I was reading those things that the Lord helped me, you know. I was also thinking of the disciples. They had a little problem because
they did.
when James and John and Mom was saying, who's going to sit at your right hand?
That's right.
Who's going to be at your right hand? And like he said, it's none of your business.
That's right. That's right.
We sometimes want, we all like to be recognized.
We did.
I mean, that's a human thing, but if that's all we do is to be recognized,
Right.
we're not going to get any reward for that.
Like if you're building yourself up and you know, okay, they're going to call on me, and they don't, and you're like,
That's
Christ. Yeah, but it's human.
Yeah.
It's human nature to anticipate things like that. But that's where we have to, as Paul tells us, die daily. We have to put that off. It's hard not to get it out of, it's hard, it's in our head, and it's hard to get it out of our head. But we have to be something different. And that's the way Jesus was trying to tell us that they wanted us to be. Okay, 5 through, 10, Brother Epperson?
But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make good broad their
Phylacteries.
and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uttermost rooms at the feast, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the marketplace, and to be called of men, Rabbi. But be not called, ye call Rabbi, for no man your Father upon earth. But ye did call Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and you are all brethren. And he called no man your father upon earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ.
Right. Now it goes through, you know what a phylactery is?
A what?
A phylactery. It's down there, that second line, Phlacteries, phylactery.
I don't think so.
That is a little leather box, or pouch, if you want to say it that way, that they have scriptures written on, and they put the scriptures in there, and they take that and put it on their head, or they put it on their arm. And they do that today. I had pictures.
Attached to a rubber band or a string?
It's leather, usually a leather band, and they tie it around their head when they're praying to show that they're constantly keeping the scriptures on their mind, or constantly keeping the scriptures on their hand. And I'm not trying to belittle them, okay? But this is one of the things that they have brought forth that really means nothing. So, if your phylactery is bigger than my phylactery, you must be more holy.
That's not the way we do
Or
it.
if, in the garments, they would line their garments, and Jesus had this too, on his prayer shawl that he had. They would put a prayer shawl on. If you had long, big, broad ribbons, you were special. It's kind of like doctors. I didn't know this. The longer the coat of a doctor, the more seniority he has, and the more PhDs and all that stuff behind their name. I never knew that till Mom was in the hospital, but found that out. But that's all. That's what this is. It's a showing, an outward showing that you're just right with God. Okay? So when we go into the Wailing Wall, I don't have my pictures with me on it, but I have to show you. Right, you go through this kind of tunnel to go to the Wailing Wall, and then it opens up. I think you've all seen pictures of the Wailing Wall. Men's are on this side, the men are on this side, and the women are on that side. Right outside, as you go through the tunnel, there's a little booth right there. You can get your phylactery if you don't have one.
Really?
Yeah, and you go on down and you can get your kapur, y'all, whatever they call it, yamal. You can get your yamal and put it on, and those are reusable. So you get it when you put it on, and then when you're leaving, you're supposed to put it out. Well, us stupid Americans picked the ones up that was used, so I'm surprised some of us didn't get some lights. I didn't put one on, because luckily, a ball cap works. So I had a ball cap on the whole time when I was over there. So I was okay. My head was covered. That's all they cared about.
That was the main thing.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to think I'm making fun
It's
of
just,
them.
that's their
It's
tradition.
not. That's their tradition. And that's what the Pharisees
But you
was
know what?
focused
It's
on.
interesting to watch too.
It's interesting to understand why they did it this way. And that's what Jesus was trying to point out here. Okay, if you want to do that, because you go back to Moses, and Moses told them to do this, to have a phylactery, to do this particular, have this on your head, to constantly keep the scripture on your mind. Sometimes people take things verbatim though, and they should say, well, just keep it in your front of your head. That's what, in the front of your mind. That's what it means. And that's exactly what Jesus was trying to say in the Sermon on the Mount, things like that. A lot of these things, yeah, you can do it. And if the nation or the people, if that's common to do, you'll be okay. You do that over here in Oklahoma, and people will think you're kind of crazy. Now in New York City, it's okay.
New York has a lot of them.
They have a lot of Jewish people, or wherever they may have a lot of Jewish people, so that's okay. But when you have these things, it's just to show, it's just for show. That's all it is. And then he calls them, don't call me rabbi, or you shouldn't call anybody rabbi, for there is only one who is your teacher. Who's the teacher?
Jesus.
Actually, God. Jesus is the one. Jesus is telling them. And what did Jesus always say? I do what my Father says. And that's what he said, don't say Father. Because ultimately, God is Father of us all. All right? He formed Adam in the very beginning, and from there we come on. Now that doesn't mean your earthly father. I think everybody's earthly fathers are gone that are here, but that you couldn't call him father. I never called my dad father.
I didn't either.
I called him dad when I was young. Called him daddy,
Yeah.
pop, something like that. That's just familiarity with him, that he knew who he was. You ever been in a school deal and somebody says, Mom or Dad? And everybody turns around. All the moms and all the dads turn around because they know it. That's their name. That's somebody's. That's what happens. But he's calling them.
They just know me at all.
It's something of respect. That's the only reason they wanted to be called rabbi. Because, I'm rabbi. You have to get out of my way when I'm walking down the street. You have to get out of my way. I can think of a lot of people up in Washington, D.C. that kind of got this attitude.
Well, even
stars or superstars, athletes.
Even around our church sometimes
Oh, yeah.
we have the office of a bishop.
Yeah.
And to me, I remember when I first started the ministry, I thought it was, wow, what it really was. It's like being a deacon.
Right.
You know what I mean? But sometimes we got in the habit of saying Bishop so-and-so,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
you know, or Deacon so-and-so, and it takes we're servants is what we are.
Right, right.
And sometimes we put that title out there to like, well, I'm a bishop, or I'm a.
Some people go after it like that instead of after, I mean.
It's not always that, but you know.
No, it's not. But there are people though that they'll put, I had one, I was a professional engineer, and I still am for another year maybe. I pay another year's up, but I don't practice it anymore, and I have to keep up with it, all that stuff, and it just, I'm not working, so what real cause is it? But when you're doing that work, as a professional engineer, whatever realm that you're doing, petroleum engineer, or electrical, or whatever, there are certain standards that you have to meet. But some people take it to the utmost. Don't know, there's a business cards, they'll have it, paper, everything they sign it with that and everything. Now, if you're actually signing the work that you're the engineer that was in charge of it, yeah, you have to sign it. You have to put your stamp on it and everything, because just like those guys that built those bridges and they fell down, those guys, they lost their engineering license because they didn't go through what they were supposed to go through, because those wouldn't have fell down. So anyway, let's go on. I'm spending too much time on this. 11 and 12, do you want to read that for us, Iris?
But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted.
He's talked about this before in several different places in Matthew. Matthew has repeated this several times, so we see that it's kind of an upside down world. We don't need to seek for the fame, seek for the fortune, seek for all this thing. It's worldly. And he said the world's just, later on it'll say it's just, well, the Psalms, it's fleeting. It's temporary. It's nothing that's going to last. So we need to, as Brother Epperson said, seek to serve. Whatever it is, we need to, because ultimately we're serving God. And whether you're serving the people of the church or of the other people, anybody, it doesn't even have to be a church, it can be friends. When you change a flat tire or give somebody a lift or call them, do anything you can do that helps them up, and that instead of acting humble like the Pharisees did, that was falling into the wall, running into the wall because he wouldn't look around. 13, you want to read that for us?
But do unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against me. For you neither go into yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in.
Okay. So this starts the woes. If you go through here, there's 8 woes. And the top of this tells you a little bit about it. It kind of is the opposite of the Beatitudes. All right? Blessed are ye that do that. Well, here it's saying, woe unto you. And the woe is like, oh, you're getting off close, you better watch out. You know. The first thing he says, he calls them hypocrites. What is a hypocrite? What's the definition of a hypocrite?
Speak what you think you should do and do the opposite.
What do we see a lot of today like that? It's on a little tube in there that you watch. It's called television.
Oh, yeah.
Actors. They're hypocrites.
And after
Okay? They're professional hypocrites because they're acting one way, and then if you see them later in life, they may be totally different.
Yeah.
They have to abstain. Now they're doing it for a purpose, but that's exactly the definition of a hypocrite. They are acting a part. The Pharisees, that's what they were doing. They're acting to be a leader. They're acting to be high and lifted up. They're not. They're acting. That's all that it is. Tells them, you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. They were so busy on keeping all the rules and laws and regulations and all they had here on earth. The people couldn't reap any benefit from heaven because they were so busy trying to do everything on earth. (14). Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, those are repeated almost every time, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer, therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. Do we see today people taking advantage of other people? We see that a lot. It's what scammers are. It's what, the people that, they want a fast buck, they don't want to work. They want to be able to, they put so much ingenuity in making all these plans and making all these elaborate ruses, when if they focus that into actual work, they could do a lot of work and probably get paid pretty well for it, but they're too busy trying to cheat people out of what it is. So that's what they're saying. They devour widows' houses. They look, when somebody falls and can't make their tax payments, they go out and take the house. Or they can't pay their taxes to the church. Oh, well, I guess you'll have to go live with your aunt over here, or your uncle over here, or your brother or sister, because church got to have its money. We'll just take your house and sell it, or whatever. They were doing that. For a pretense, make long prayer. Therefore shall receive a greater damnation. What did Jesus say? Don't repeat. You don't have to have long prayer. The prayers he told the disciples was very short compared to some of the others. That doesn't mean that it has to be short. I mean, there's times when you're pleading with God, you plead and you probably will repeat yourself several times. But because of this, we also see there's a level in different levels in heaven. I mean, we know there's different levels in heaven, but in hell, they receive a greater damnation. So there are going to be times when they're doing things that hurt people, that they're going to get hurt a lot more in the coming days when the time comes.
Yeah. Well, I can just hear Jesus say, seek ye first the kingdom of God.
That's right.
And all its righteousness. And of course, that probably went in one ear and out the other with him.
Well, yeah. Verse 15, Brother Epson.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you can pass sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twofold more of a child of hell than yourself.
So their whole goal was to make more Pharisees, or make them more like their sin, to be like them. It says their zeal in evangelism did not prove that they were right with God. These religious leaders went to great lengths to win others, but they brought people to darkness, not light. Case in point, it's Apostle Paul, or Saul, if you want to say that. He was exceeding them all. He was, going to tear people from life and limb. God turned him around. The word proselyte is an English transliteration of a Greek word which means one who has approached or drawn near. The proselyte was the full convert who had accepted the ceremonial law and circumcision and had become, in the fullest sense, a Jew. Okay? So the proselytes had become just like them. It says, in this respect, the religious leaders were similar to Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses today. They were courageous and energetic messengers, but they had a false message. Okay, you going to read the next one for us, Iris?
Woe unto you, ye blind guides, which say, whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. But whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. Ye fools and blind, for whether is greater the gold or the temple that sanctifieth the gold? And whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing. But whosoever sweareth by the gift that is upon it, he is guilty. Ye fools and blind, is that word
For
whether is greater the gift or the altar that sanctifieth the gift. Whoso therefore shall swear by the altar sweareth by it, and by all things thereon. And whoso shall swear by the temple sweareth by it, and by him that dwelleth therein. And he that shall swear by heaven sweareth by the throne of God, and by him that sitteth thereon.
Okay. Now Jesus told us early on, shouldn't swear. Okay. But there are times that swearing is binding on some of the, when they swore on different parts, it's binding upon them. But it's like they swear and then they cross their fingers and put it behind their back. So it's okay if I don't do it. And that's what they're saying here. They would swear by certain things like, oh, I can swear by the temple and it's okay. But if you swear by the gold in the temple, oh, that's you're getting in trouble. That's different. That's what he's saying. You
That's what Jesus said, swear not at all.
Yeah, it's swear not at all. So,
Wow.
so it goes through each one of these, which is greater, the altar that sanctifieth the gift or the things that you give in it. Each one of these is different. Jesus emphasized that the altar itself is greater than the sacrifice that was made on it. The altar is established a meeting place between God and man, and our altar is Jesus himself and his work on the cross. So, it's so, we always see in the Old Testament all the altars. Abraham built an altar, Noah built an altar after he got off the boat, Moses, all these different places in the Old Testament, they built altars to shed some blood and give that sacrifice to God. Jesus did all that himself. He shed his own blood and he became the altar also because he laid himself down for that. 23 and 24, Bertha?
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise,
Anise.
and cumin, and have omitted the
Weightier.
with your matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye have done, and not to leave the others undone. You blind guides, which strain at the knot and swallow a camel.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So they would tithe when they would grow in their herb gardens, mint, anise, cumin, parsley, whatever they would grow, they would tithe that. That's okay. It's not a bad deal. But they wouldn't do the weightier things of the law. Tithing is okay. We need to do tithing. We need to do this. But he said the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These you ought to have done. So they were taking, like we said before, taking it and turning it around to whatever they could do and get away with it. That's what they would do. Yeah, they wouldn't be taking, It's not saying I did this, but it really was beside the point, because the heart of it, you were doing it. The last part of it, you blind guides, okay, here again, the blind lead the blind, they're both going to fall in the ditch. You strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. The strain at a gnat said Jesus illustrated their folly with a humorous picture of a man so committed to a kosher diet. Okay, that's clean, being clean, that he would strain and not swallow a gnat that may have gotten into his water or anything like that, because it wasn't bled properly. You have to bleed it and get the blood out of it according to the kosher regulations. Yet the same man would swallow a whole camel. And it's kind of like the log in your own eye when you're trying to pick out the splinter in somebody else's eye. You can't see for what's in front of you. That's what it's saying. 25 and 26, that's me, I guess. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. They were so caught up in showing that they were holy. That's what he meant. The outside, the inside of them was not holy. The outside may have looked holy, and to somebody looking at them, they may have looked holy, but if they lived with them, they probably wasn't holy. That's what he's trying to tell. So they have to first do that. Who would wash a glass and only wash on the outside? Maybe a kid or something like that. But you'd wash the inside. That's the place where most of the germs are going to get. I mean, yeah, you touch it, but or the plate or anything like that. That's what he said. The outside of them may be clean also after you wash the outside, the inside. They're full of extortion and self-indulgence. While they're greatly concerned with outward appearance, they were unconcerned with the inside, which is full of sin and corruption. Okay, 27 and 28, Brother Emerson.
Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. Even so, ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within you are full of hypocrisy and iniquity.
Okay? So we see that, and what they did, one reason they give here, it says down here in the bottom, it's custom of the Jews of that time of the year to whitewash the tombs in the city of Jerusalem before the Passover, so that no one would accidentally touch the tomb and then be unclean, and then they couldn't participate in the Passover. Another one said that they would put plaster up. And plaster, what that does, that just covers it up. And that's what this same thing means. It's just whatever they actually meant by this. Outside was one thing, maybe nice and pretty, but after a little while it became corrupt because the inside was corrupt. Okay? Again, he's just re-emphasizing that. 29 through 36, Iris, you get all the long ones tonight, aren't you?
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because ye build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore ye be witnesses unto yourselves, that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill ye up in the measure of your fathers, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall ye scourge in your synagogues, and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of
Barkius.
Bar
That's good.
what?
Barkius. That's the way
Barkius,
I'd say it.
whom he slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation.
Okay. So now he goes back to another message that he's talked about before. The vineyard. The king built a vineyard, and he put people in charge, and he sent people to go get some of his servants to go get some of the wine, and they killed him. Then he sent some more, and they beat him up. He sent some more, and finally he sent his son, and they killed his son. It's the very same thing, because he said, I sent my my prophets, some of which you killed. Fill ye the measure of the cup of your father, you serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can you escape the damnation of hell? They wasn't able to hear the prophets. They didn't want to hear the prophets. God would tell them. I've been reading in 1st and 2nd Kings, and it kind of goes through, and it's repetitive a little bit. They'll say, so-and-so is king of Judah, and so-and-so is king of Israel, and he did as his fathers did. He was good. And the other one said, no, he's not good, and go back and forth. That's what they were kings, and when they would do bad, God would normally send a prophet to them and say, you need to do this. So what was Elijah? What was Elisha? They were sent to the kings of that time to try to correct them. Jonah was sent to Nineveh to try to correct the people. Some of these cases, those prophets got killed. Some of them didn't, but he's already, again, foretelling what's going to happen to him. You're going to kill me. That's what's going to happen. The righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias. Now, if you look that up, to us, it looks like they missed a lot of the Bible, because Abel, of course, is in Genesis. Zacharias was the last prophet that they slew. He was in 2nd Chronicles. Well, the Jewish Bible, 2nd Chronicles is the last book.
Oh.
The way they are lined up is not the same as the way we're. So from A to Z, basically from Abel to Zacharias, you had all these people, and this generation did not understand it. You had righteous people that was coming to us, these prophets, these leaders, and what did you do? You just shed their blood. Okay? And Zacharias, at that particular time, between the temple and the altar, if you go back and look, that's what they did. They killed him between the temple and the altar. And he was just trying to deliver God's message. Boy, it'd be tough to try to be a prophet back there in that time, wouldn't it? I really, God, you want me to do that? I don't know if I want to do that.
And how long is it going to take it to come to pass?
That's right. That's right.
If you're a false prophet,
Mm-hmm.
you don't
Real quick. not too much. 37 through 39. Bertha?
Next page.
Yep.
I was reading calling you, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killed the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathered her chickens under her wings, and you would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till you shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord.
Okay? So he's already told them pretty much that this is their last chance. They've had all these chances before. And what did we say before? That all this was leading up, that the Jews are going to not accept him until when?
Just as I said.
Till after the time of the Gentiles. We're getting close now. Our time from Jesus, when Jesus told, or in the vision Peter had and in the vision Paul had, where they were to go out to the Gentiles, to the uttermost port of the earth, from that time on to now, or till the Lord comes back in the rapture, that's the church time, or that's the Gentile time. When that ends, it's going to switch back to Israel. It's going to be on Israel's clock again, so to say. Daniel's time picks up again. And if they understand, then they will realize that now you missed the Messiah, and they're going to start coming back. So that's going to be that 7 years in between when the rapture happens, or more than 7 years. We don't know exactly between the rapture and when tribulation starts, but 7 years of tribulation, there's going to be a lot of Jewish people recognize Christ. They're going to become Messianic Jews. They're going to understand what he meant. Okay? I guess that's it. That's the last one. Any questions or any comments on?
No, very good lesson.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody watching. See you next time, next week.
Brother Bill still watch?
I don't know. Somebody was on. It doesn't tell me who's on.